Hey everyone, Aesop's here. Today I want to give you an Axie Infinity economic update and explain to you why Axie Infinity is dying and why we need change now. The first thing I want to show you guys is the Axie Infinity SLP burn to mint rates. As you guys can see here, here's a chart that goes all the way back towards June and July. As you guys can see, when Axie Infinity really started to blow up, we saw a burn to mint rate that was pretty healthy. It slowly started to get more and more unsustainable where the burn just didn't keep up with the mint rate. At some of these peaks, for example, our peak burn was 111 million SLP was burned in a single day versus a mint at the highest it was ever 1.2 billion SLP was minted in a single day. So you can see obviously by this chart, the numbers are very different, as well as our peaks and our lows. Recently though, you can see that we have really fallen off, especially since the start of the year. If we go right back here towards the start of the year, you were talking a burn of, let's say 30 to 50 million SLP. Right now, we've been burning closer to 1 to 2 million. And now we did have a couple days where it was extremely low right in here. However, that was mainly due to the issue with the hack, the network being pretty much shut down, a lot of things like that. So that's not a totally fair thing to look at. However, even since the hack has recovered, or with Origins, we're still talking a pretty low mint versus burn ratio here. I mean, you're looking at about 1 out of 25 SLP minted is being burned. That's really not healthy. Now I'm going to wait until things pick up a little bit more with the Origin launch before I do a full deep dive into this burn to mint rate, but this gives you guys an idea of where we're sitting right now and what's been happening since my last update. Next thing I want to get into is some economic data provided to us by Sky Mavis. We have a few things here that I want to point out as key information. We have daily active user numbers first of all, which is great, going all the way back pretty reliably for a lot of this data back towards May. Some other key things to look at, we have Axie holders, we have monthly marketplace volume, balances of AXS and ETH in the treasury, number of land holders. There's a lot of valuable data here. The big ones, again, that I want to point out though are daily active users, Axie holders, and monthly volume. As we can see by this weekly data update, we have pretty significant daily active user growth when we go back towards that big Axie Infinity boom, which I'm sure surprises no one. Now, as we move forward, something I do want to point out is that the highest week we ever had was here in November. You can see we had 2.718 million daily active users, basically 2.7 million daily active users. Axie holders was also about 2.7 million. Your monthly volume peaked out about $730 million, which is insane, as well as some of these growth numbers. Again, you can see we consistently had growth numbers of daily active user numbers, was constantly a positive growth week over week until this point. Now, this is when things started to turn around for Axie Infinity, and I'm going to show you the effect of that here in just a second. As you guys can see, really since November, we saw a pretty consistent decline in daily active users numbers, as well as monthly volume going on in the marketplace. And we can see right now, we went from that peak of 2.7 million to currently we're over here at about 1.3 million daily active users. Marketplace volumes 26 million compared to, again, $730 million at the peak. So monthly volumes dropped a lot. Daily active users numbers have dropped a lot. Axie holders actually have not dropped as much. So that's, I guess, a good number. What I also did was chart this out to help you guys visualize some of these things. So we're going to take from when this data first originated, daily active user numbers and monthly volume, as you can see by these two charts right here. What I want to point out is that we definitely had a huge spike in daily active users, and again, we're down reasonably from the peak of that of 2.7 million daily active users, right now at 1.3, which means our daily active users right now has been cut almost in half from where we were before. When we look at monthly volume numbers, you guys can see that we started out about $8 million of monthly volume. We actually peaked over here. We can see before daily active users peaked, interestingly enough. This was mainly when Axie prices were extremely high. Again, a huge growth spurt for Axie Infinity, but you can see that right here. This was some of the highest points when it comes to monthly volume in these weeks. Those numbers then came down again, as you guys can see by the chart, and eventually we did pick it back up back in November. And right now we're way back down below towards where we were. As you guys can see, $26 million of monthly volume. That's not a far cry off from where we started before Axie Infinity has a big blow up. I also made these charts into terms of from the Axie Infinity community peak point when we had the most players from the community, when we were at 2.7 million daily active users. You guys can see those two charts right here, where you can also see a similar story of a sharp decline from where we started off. Something else I did look at was the average weekly decline in daily active user numbers from the peak, again, back in November. When we look at that and go and extrapolate that out to current time, we have about a negative 2.75% weekly change in daily active user numbers when we average it out. We extrapolate that out and move forward into the future to see how long it takes us to hit under 1 million daily active users, it's not that far off, as you guys can see right here with this being charted out. This of course is by no means a guarantee, and if Origin starts to get picked up by the masses, this could change for sure. But based on our historical numbers, we could be seeing us going under 1 million daily active users in June/July, which would be, again, a significant decline from the top. Something else that I feel like is worth highlighting for all those people who say, you bought at the top, it's your fault for getting in and losing money. When we look at the actual numbers here in the facts, we can see that from May 25th until November 15th, daily active user numbers, about 97% of the peak player base came in during that time frame. Okay, great. Let's look at what that actually means for Axie prices and what people paid. I mean, who bought at the top and how many people lost money? Now, with 97% of the player base joining in that time period, let's take a look at what the floor price, again, this is not for meta teams, this is floor price looked like during that time period according to Max Brand's data. Now, as we start over here on May 24th, you can see the price was under $100. We're looking at about $70 floor price. As we keep going down, we start getting over $100 pretty substantially, hang around $100 again, go back up $200, $300. We peak in here, what is this, around $400 at some points in here when we're in mid-July. Keep going, 300. We're just going to keep looking at this. Let's see, how many people have not lost money since they got in? Right in here, we have a couple low numbers, but this is hourly, and there were some glitched Axies on the marketplace. I'm sure some of you remember that. To keep looking at these average prices, though, you see pretty consistently in here, we're looking at over $100 floor price. Again, keep going, and there we are. Right as we start to end it off here on the 15th, right in here, you can see we're pretty consistently, again, glitch data, but we're pretty steadily over $100 at the very least. Of course, we saw prices peak as high as close to $400, but we're looking at the low end. What is the low end that 97% of the player base buying in during this time? It'd be pretty safe to say that the vast majority of them bought over $100. Floor price, some bought as high as $300, almost $400, but 97% of the player base pretty much entirely bought over $100 floor price. Well, what's the floor price now? Let's go over here and take a look. Well, unfortunately for 97% of the player base, when we look at current floor prices, you're looking at $19, $20 floor prices. That means that at 90% of the player base that bought over $100 threshold is currently down dramatically for those who held. Now, some did extract and do things that people didn't want them to do, but hey, those guys are the ones who didn't take a 70 to 80% haircut, sometimes even higher. Now, unfortunately, I have bad news for those who say it's your fault for buying at the top. If 97% of the community bought at a price, that means that they're losing well over 50% of their investment. That's not the top. The top would be considered the top 10%, the people who bought at $400 floor prices, not the price that 97% of the community bought at. So unfortunately, that argument's just not valid. The vast majority of players are down over 50% on their investment in Axie Infinity right now. That's all I got for you guys today. When Origin's been out for a little bit longer and we have more data, I'll dive deeper into some refreshed data. But overall, as we look at the past couple months and extrapolate out what's been happening so far, it just doesn't look good. We have over 90% of the player base that's lost well over 50% of their investment. The economic numbers are really bad. We're down over 90% on monthly volume. We've lost about half of our player base. Things are not looking good. So hopefully the team and all the Maxies can get together to do something good for the community.